I'm super excited that you're all here to hear me talk about hidden gems. So these are kind of the unused but super awesome features of Kuali Research. And so let's go ahead and dive in. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. And this is true of any of the sessions at Kuali Days, but slides will be uploaded in the Socio app platform, and as well as the session recordings will be uploaded there. At the end of the session, please rate via the Socio app or platform and give us a rating and feedback. And then throughout the session, please feel free to post questions in the chat. Omar's going to help kind of monitor that. And also, if you want to just pipe in a question, you can. I'll be kind of taking some breaks throughout to kind of get any questions of the things I'm covering. So yeah. So who am I? I'm Jessica Peck. I am the Director of Customer Support for Kuali Research. So I kind of I manage all the support with Nancy Chu, who you've probably dealt with me or Nancy with support tickets. So we manage that. And we also manage the documentation, system documentation in the knowledge base of the support portal. I've been at Kuali as an employee for 4 years, but I've worked in the Kuali community since 2009. Previously at my other position at the University of Arizona, I was heavily involved in the Kuali Foundation. And so, yeah, I've been around Kuali community, and that's why I love it. I love Kuali Days. So I'm super excited to be able to present again. All right, so arm your gauntlet in Kuali Research. You may be asking yourself, now, Jessica, you're not suggesting that these gems I'm about to show you are as powerful as the Infinity Stones or Infinity Gauntlet as featured in Avengers. And I would say maybe. I'll let you guys decide at the end. I mean, minus the, killing half the population. It's pretty powerful. So I'm excited to kind of dig in and show you guys these. And if those references went over your head, it's okay. I'm a geek. Just ignore it. So there's a bunch of great gems, and these are kind of what we're gonna go over. I'm gonna dive in and kind of demystify a lot of these things. So the first one, dashboard. This is our new interface that it's been around for maybe 2 years probably, but it's just kind of we pushed to all customers at the beginning of the year, but many were using it previously. It's a great tool overall, but I just want to highlight a few things that are super cool. First of all, card filters. So within the last couple months, we were able to push out some card filters thanks to Omar, who's moderating this session. He put a lot of work into that. So it allows you to filter down on a number of criteria within the card itself, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And also I want to just mention, you'll notice in the slide deck, there's links on each one of these. So when we do post the slide deck, those links actually go out to the documentation related to each of these features. So you can kind of dig in and look those things up as well. So that'll be a resource you can come back to. So yeah, dashboard card filters, great tool. Also, dashboard card permissioning. So before we could kind of toggle a card on in a dashboard holistically as an institution, whether it's available or not, and then each user would actually be able to toggle things on and off. But now we have actual permissions specific to a given card, so you can be pretty granular on who would actually have access to that. And then last but not least is the dashboard search. We kind of coined that and call it Omni Search. It's a really fast and robust tool to be able to search records throughout Kuali Research, and I'll show you that as we get into the system. All right, so let's look at these things. So this is the dashboard in Kuali Research. So you'll notice there's a number of cards. Now, there's always been this sort. You can sort the results in each card, but you can also filter now. And you'll notice there's a filter option in each. And then there's actually one, if there's one applied, you'll be able to see that it's highlighted blue like this one. And if you click on it, you'll see which filter was actually applied. But it's a great tool. So if I want to say, okay, I want to see all proposals with the activity type of research. Great. Okay, I want to add another filter and I want to see deadline date, which is probably very, very common, of 9/30/2020. Oops. All right. So that, oops, I didn't put in the right format, did I? So great. So now you can filter this card. Oh, these are all the proposals that are due on this such and such day, this such and such deadline. And it's really, really great way to be able to take more control of your dashboard cards. So that's one great feature. We talked about the permissioning. So like I said, you can toggle on as an institution. This is kind of your admin level. You can toggle on the ability to have access to these cards and sections, or as a user, you can toggle on show hide cards individually, and these save per user. But like I said, too, you can have a permission, and in the link in the slide deck, it takes you to the article that describes each permission and which one you would need to use. So if you have a subset of users, maybe it's your award processing team that should be able to see the awards work in progress. And you don't really want anyone else to have that card. What you can do is add that permission to a role that they're a member of, or a group that they're a member of is assigned to that role. And that way only those subset of users will get access to that card. The other thing I wanted to focus on, like I said before, is the search. So this allows you to narrow down records by a number of criteria. So for example, maybe I want to look by PI of Kate. So let's add that. Cool. So it's going to bring back any record where Kate is the PI, and that's including institutional proposals, awards, and so on and so forth. It'll default to the first 10, but you can increase that range to 100, and then it'll page down, as you notice down here. But let's narrow this down to sponsor of NIH. So you can see that these are other criteria here. You can see each one I've added. And then what you can also do is search everywhere. So I don't select any criteria, and I just want to put in test. So what I'll do is actually look across any of the fields in these records where test is found. And great, you can see that that's the like test is in the title here. Test may be in some of the other fields within these records, and you can narrow that down even further. So the other thing I wanted to mention is something we just released is an export feature for this. So now we have the ability to actually export these results as a CSV, which is super, super great. Just one little note on this, it will only export the page that you're on. So you'd have to kind of toggle to each page that you want to export. We are planning to make this export entire results in the near future, but right now it's exporting page by page. So the 100 results basically, or up to 100 results. Any questions on any of the things I've covered on dashboard? All right.
So at least I have been answering questions on the chat. So if anyone wants to speak up, I am trying to answer the questions that are going on the chat right now.
Okay. Okay. Was there anything that came up that we weren't able to? I think it looks like you got. I assume that this search will pull records that the user has access to. Yes, it is permission driven. Any other questions? All right, so we'll go back to my slide deck and go on to the next section. And the next section.
Jess, I think there was another question out there about whether the search feature picked up protocols.
No, so right now this is only on the sponsored program side of the House. So it's only, so COI and protocols is currently not in this tool. I think long-term, we do want to eventually, hopefully, add those records, but it's not available yet.
There's another question that just came by chat.
If you have access to Report Designer or Run Global, is there a backend raw data? No, so the end goal of this is not necessarily as a reporting tool. So we want you to use the Sisense reporting features. This is more of a front-end mechanism to find records easily and export if necessary, but it's by no means a reporting, meant to be a reporting tool. We would want you to kind of field those via the Sisense. Sure. All right. Anything else? I think I'll keep going. All right. Proposal development. Proposal gems. Okay, so sub-award budgeting. I feel like a lot of people maybe not utilizing this as full power. So I'll show you that in just a minute, but it's really nice because it allows you to upload budgets, R&R, or input values directly to populate your line items for sub-award directly into your detail. So you don't have to manually add each line item each year for a given sub-award. I'll show you that in just a moment. Also, the NIH validation service. So if you're using system to system, we can also enable the NIH validation service, which allows you to, it goes out to Commons and applies their own, the service they do. So when you submit an application, it'll basically run validations at Commons against the program announcement, against a certain criteria for that given RFP. So what this allows you to do is go and retrieve those validations before you even submit the proposal. And that's directly via eCommons API backend that gives the same validations you would see if it was submitted, but beforehand. So you can avoid it getting rejected with errors because you can see those up front. The other great thing that we added maybe 6 months ago, along with the NIH validation service, now we have the ability to generate a PDF of how it will actually look and compile at NIH Commons. And it's via this NIH e-application button, which I'll show you. But what it does is it goes and retrieves the compiled image from the actual service that Commons uses. So we're going out to Commons using their service, and then you can see that compiled package. It's really nice too, because I think a lot of times, at least when I submitted the U of A, their PIs are anxious on how images are going to translate when it's compiled, or like the spacing and the formatting. So it's a nice visual indicator before you submit. And then that last but not least is the system-to-system submission lookup. So we actually have a specific lookup to allow you to look at all prior system-to-system submissions, which is a nice tool and reference. So let's go and look at some of these things. So let's get into a proposal that I've created. So I'm gonna get into this. All right, so let's get into the budget. So this is an NIH proposal I've put together. And here in the budget, you'll notice there's a subawards tab. So in this subawards section, this is where you can add all your applicable subcontracts. So you'll notice I've added one for Arizona State. I just added one with no information because I want to show you a couple ways you can do this. So a lot of times people think, well, I'm not using system to system. I don't think it's really a tool I want to use, but you can actually utilize it whether you're using system to system or not. So if I open the details of this subaward I've added, you'll notice you can actually add a file. So if you're using system to system, or even if you're not, but you have the R&R budget from that subawardee, which you probably will need to gather anyways, you can actually upload it. So I'm gonna go to my desktop. I'm gonna get my filled out R&R budget. This is that fillable R&R budget. I'm gonna add, and it will actually be smart enough to extract the information from that subaward and put in the direct NF&A here. And if it had cost sharing, it would do the same. So 28,000 a direct, 14 in F&A. in year 1 and 33,000 and 14,000 in year 2. So if I save these changes, then I go to my non-personnel costs, you'll notice it's already automatically assigned object codes and line items for this subcontractor. And it also takes into account the first 25,000 and the amount over that first 25,000, and then broken out by direct and F&A. So this is all kind of configured in the back end, but it's really nice because it does all the work for you in years 1 and 2, which is very cool. But you may ask, well, I don't have an R&R budget. You don't have to. You can actually manually fill this out. So for example, if you had another subawardee, let's find another school. So
Jessica,
maybe,
Jessica, while you do that, Manda was asking if we can download the template for that R&R budget from the module. I think no.
yes, you can, and I will show you that in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's add another subaward. I don't have a file. You could actually upload, maybe they have a flat PDF or an Excel file. It won't translate, but you could be a reference point for you. But let me add this subaward. But what you can do is, maybe you don't have a file to translate, but you can just automatically input this manually. Oops. Okay. And then it will do the same thing where it will translate these amounts to object codes in your detailed budget once I hit save. So if I go over to non-personnel, you should see additional object codes now for University of Massachusetts Amherst. The 3 object codes in year 1, specific to the first 25,000, and broken out direct and F&A, and same for year 2. First year, but want to use auto calculate later. Waiting until all other times. I see what you're saying. So Sarah was asking at one point you should probably add this, because if you do auto calculate, so a lot of times people are wanting to fill out year 1 and then do auto calculate to kind of fill out the out years. If you are using auto calculate, I might suggest adding these at the very end of your, because I think once you do this, it doesn't allow auto calculate because you have years in the out years. Yeah. Oh, Amanda, thank you. She said that she does wait for that reason. Were there any other questions I missed? Process save the PDF as an attachment. Yes. So Noah Noah. So basically it does. So this is if you were doing system to system and you had a subawardee, this is where you would actually put the R&R budget. And because it extracts and all that, it also will append and to the system to system when it's transmitted. So you'll be able to, once it's added, you'll be able to print it, preview it, and it'll actually send in the transmission.
So if you just put in the PDF and you extract the values, that's what I was asking. At that point, it's as an attachment, or only extracts the values and just throws away the attachment.
Are you talking about with system to system?
It was a couple pages ago, you uploaded a PDF and it extracted values.
Yes.
What happens to that PDF that you uploaded?
Right, so that's the file that's used in your system to system application. So within that opportunity, they want subaward budgets. And so those forms you've uploaded, the R&R budgets, is where you upload it, and it will actually extract not only here for the line items, but it will be used and extracted to populate the subaward budget form that's sent to system via system to system as an attachment.
Thank you.
Sure.
No, I think you're also asking, can you view it again? Yes, if she clicks on that details right there.
Yeah, you can view.
Then you can view
PDF.
it right there.
Okay.
You can also view the XML if it is a fillable. So this one's a fillable. You can see the XML and you can sync or replace or delete.
There was also a long time ago, we were looking at all our attachments, and each different attachment was saved in a different location. And we found one attachment that maybe it was related to budget, maybe subaward, but we didn't know where it came from. And we didn't know who put it there. And maybe this is answering that question.
Maybe, I'm not sure. If you still have questions on that, maybe let me know and I can take a look, but.
We also had a
Alright,
question
okay.
from Greg regarding grant scope validation. You want to take a look? He's asking if grant scope validation and the agency, if this validates grant scope validation and the agency specific grant validation.
So let me see. Say that question again for me. So if there's
So he's asking
validation,
is, does it do both grant.gov validation and the agency
Yes.
specific grant.gov?
yeah, so our system itself will actually do all the grants.gov validations required for the forms or the opportunity automatically. It won't let you submit unless you've, addressed all the errors or missing fields required for each form. The NIH validation service goes a step further, specific for NIH opportunities, and goes to eCommons to retrieve their own set of validations that gets applied. So for example, on this one, I'm going to turn on validations. And I've filled out, you've kind of had to fill out all the required information for the grants.gov to actually validate. Those have to be filled out first before it will go out to NIH and retrieve. So you can see that, so I have normal validations, but then I also have, these are the the NIH validation service errors. You can see it's this validation service errors. So right now it's saying, hey, the specific aims is a required attachment for this application. Now, this isn't required in the form, so it wouldn't throw a grants.gov error, but it is required by NIH for this opportunity. So that's where this validation comes in really handy, that it checks against their own validations. It also will validate against any, warnings like, hey, heads up, typically a bibliography and references cited should be included. These validation warnings won't prevent submission, but the errors will. Now, we do have a mechanism to kind of override these NIH validation errors and warnings, and it's in the NIH validation mapping table. In the off chance that something needs to be adjusted or you need to kind of override it or allow it, even though it's throwing, you can change it to a warning or error. And then along with that, so someone was asking how you download the forms. So for example, to get the fillable subaward form, where can you get that? So for right here, any of these links for the forms in the opportunity will go out to grants.gov, pull that form, the fillable form, and allow you to fill it out. You would only typically need to do this for the subaward budget form because you need to open that up, extract it, and save it. But in cases where you may need to do a form as a user attached, for example, the assignment request form is a form we don't support, but you can always download it, fill it out, and do it as a user attached, and it'll be included in your submission. The nice thing about this is sometimes versions, it's hard to know what version of a form is included in an opportunity. Well, this kind of takes the guesswork out of it, and you can just get the form that you need for this opportunity directly in the application. And then one more thing I wanted to point out, NIH application. So because this is NIH and we have the NIH validation service on, if I click the NIH application, it will go out to eCommons using their compiler that they use in Commons, and it will show you what the grant submission will look like completely compiled. So it'll show you each form. It'll show you the attached or the table of contents that gets generated. It'll show you the performance site, all the forms, all the attachments. So project summary, narrative, so on and so forth. So you can preview what it'll look like beforehand. Any questions?
I do have one.
Sure.
If we are a subawardee, is there a way to extract an R&R budget for us to send to the lead institution for them to use in their application?
Right now there isn't, but we've gotten that feedback in the past, so it'd be nice to be able to have access to those, even when it's not a system to system. In theory, I mean, you could do it from the opportunity, like attach it to a proposal not necessarily the proposal you're creating, but maybe a test proposal, make it federal, and then just attach that opportunity, and you could just download it like this as a workaround. But we have had that feedback in the past, so maybe sometime in the future, but we have no plans right now to allow that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, so I think I'm going to keep going so I make sure we're good on time. Let me get back to my presentation. All right, so we did system of system. Let's go to negotiation. So negotiation is one of our smaller modules, but it actually packs a punch. It gives you a lot of great information to track records associated with any contract negotiations or agreements. And it gives you the ability to track information, what records it may be associated with, maybe an award or a proposal, and also activities related to those negotiations. And so let me just dig in to show you. The other thing I'm going to show you too is negotiation view activity. It's a nice way to give a little transparency to your end users on where a negotiation is in the process. So let me get into the negotiation module. All right, so I created a negotiation before, and then I'll show you kind of what kind of information is in here. And this document's a little different than any of our other documents. It's it'll always open in edit mode, so it's kind of a living document per se. There's not really versions. When you go in, you have edit rights, you can edit it, but it allows you to show the status of negotiation, who the negotiator is in your contracting office, the start date, when you actually set this to complete, this will go to end date, what kind of agreement, these are all configurable. You also have association type. This is where it gets kind of handy. So if there's no association, maybe this is a contract not associated with any sponsored agreement, or you don't know it yet, you can select none and fill out the information manually, like the title or the PI and so on and so forth. But if you know that it's tied to a certain award or institutional proposal, you can go out and look it up. So maybe this is tied to a institutional proposal, and I'm going to look that up. Let's see if I can find one easily. And once you actually link it, so let's do pending, great. I'm going to link it. Once you link it, it'll pull the information automatically from the institutional proposal into these fields if they're present. So that's kind of cool. Another great feature of this linking is now it will show in the Medusa tab down below, and it will show, this negotiation will also show in the other record that you just associated with. It also has supplemental info, so you can add custom data as needed, like the other modules. But the other thing I really want to kind of focus on is the activities. So these activities are basically series of steps as you go through the negotiation process. So for example, I've already added two activities. So for example, location, office to sponsor projects, these are all configurable. Maybe you have the OSP office involved, maybe you have a specific contracting office. You can say the location, the activity type, these are all configurable. Put other, received agreement from sponsor, start and end date, because we got it, right? So this is us logging, we got the agreement. Then we have the next activity of we email questions back to the sponsor. We don't have an end date. And then so say, let's add another activity. So maybe we got our questions answered and great. But so now we got it answered. We're gonna do, now it's the location is with the subaward. And we did this today and we sent agreement to sponsor for full execution. And then a great thing too is follow-up dates. So you can say, I want to follow up on this in a week to make sure that they get back to us. You can also add attachments if you want. So maybe there's emails or partially executed agreement you send. And so now we have all this activities with this agreement. So it logs the time, the start and end date of this activity, kind of where you can get metrics on how many days it stays in a certain area. But what's really cool, because when I was at the University of Arizona, we often would get calls from faculty or from the department saying, where are we on with this negotiation? Because it was kind of a black box for them. They couldn't know where they were. So what we did is we added a permission called view activities. So in the search negotiation, anyone with that view activities permission can have the button in the lookup of view activities. So if I look up the negotiation I was just in, open it and do the view activities, you can see the record of where it's at. This is really nice for the department or the PI. And a lot of times people put this permission at the very generic user role in the system. So any user would have this right to view activities on it. Not necessarily, they wouldn't be able to open the negotiation, but they could see the activities. There's also the option, and I may have skimmed over it, in the actual activity log, you can restrict it. So if it's restricted, it wouldn't be visible in this view activity. So if there is a note or an activity you don't want to make public, you can do that. Any questions on that?
I answered a couple questions, but there's a question
Okay.
that I don't know the answer. Someone is asking, okay, so when the negotiation is linked to an IP, is there a way to modify or override the sponsor that was pulled in?
Not in the negotiation. If you do an association, all the information pulls from that record. So you'd have to change it in the institutional proposal if it was incorrect there, if you decide to link. Way to make activity description in the negotiation.
Do you happen to know, Jessica, if any of our customers are making the description field not required by doing an override? I think we can do that.
I don't.
We should be able to do that.
Required. You probably can do it via data dictionary override, but I'm not
Exactly.
sure. We'd have to check because that might be a required field for the database table. So if you have a question on that, you can submit a support ticket. We can look into it. All right, I'm going to hop back to the presentation. I just want to be conscious of time. All right, so did negotiation, subaward. So there's been a lot of sessions on subaward. I'm not going to go too deep dive on this because a lot of people have already had great sessions. So I recommend looking back at those if you weren't able to attend. But I just wanted to kind of reiterate or point out again the ability to generate FDP forms. We're about to release the 2020 versions of the FDP forms. And so what's so great about it and using the new tool that we do is within any subaward, you can generate a fillable FDP form. So it actually goes out to the FDP site, gets it, and will basically be the same functionality you would have if you went to FDP. So even if you don't fill out hardly any information in the subaward, it will create a fillable form and you can fill it out as you need. But it will also, if you start filling out the subaward and want to fill out the template information in the template tab, it will populate the FDP forms with that information you filled out. So it's kind of a dual purpose. If you don't necessarily want to track all that information in the subaward and you just want to generate the FDP to send to the subcontractor, you can, or you can start putting all that information in the subaward, generate the FDP, and you can still make modifications because it's still fillable and then send it to the subawardee. So it's a really, really great tool that I just wanted to hone in again. And this link will take you to more information on that. All right. Other high level gems and sponsored programs. All three of these could be their own session. So I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole. These links will take you to information on each. But proposal hierarchy is basically a mechanism in the system that allows you to create a series of proposals that kind of link or roll up to a parent proposal. So for example, maybe you have a big program project and you want to track all those in the system as, the child's or the subproject, are the subprojects, and you want it to roll all up to the parent. You can do that using proposal hierarchy. It also works with system to system. So it's a nice tool to be able to kind of manage those larger projects. Also, we have award hierarchy. It's a mechanism to organize money and the obligated and anticipated amounts or funds on a multi-level and hierarchical parent-child, grandchild relationship. It can get pretty complex. You can have a parent and number of children or number of grandchildren. Maybe you set up something to be at the parent level, and then each year is a child. There's a lot of different ways, and each school is kind of different flavor of how they set it up. Or maybe you have an NIH grant, and every 5-year segment is a child under the parent that you want to track. So there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of functionality there that you can take advantage of. And then last but not least is our new export control module. So this was just released not too long ago. I think we had a session dedicated to kind of showing it off, but it is a great resource to be able to kind of track your export control regulations. So if you need or want more information on that, you can reach out to us, and the link there will take you to the documentation. All right. Oh, okay. So we had a proposal hierarchy. Does each proposal piece need to be approved, routed separately? No. So basically, each child, Omar, you're about to do it. Each child is independent in a sense that it's all the information rolls up to the parent. The parent is really what gets routed. So it's a part of the parent. And so there's only really one approval for the proposal as a whole, and that's handled via the parent. All right, so let's kind of shift gears and go on the compliance side of the house. So for protocols, protocol gems. So we've recently, actually, these are probably just in the last few months we've put these out there, but one of them is the administrative update button. So protocol admins have the option to actually update information within that kind of approval box when they actually approve a protocol. In case there was an error, maybe they did a typo on the approval date or expiration date rather. So you can actually make changes to it after the fact, since we do know data errors occur, and this kind of alleviates that concern. We also put in new functionality in the templates, specifically around roles for the protocol. So now, before you had kind of your list of roles that you configured, your PI, co-investigator, whatever role types you want. And before you would just have to add them, and then you would have to specify if they had full access or read only. But now in the template, you can actually set a default. So every time a user with that role type is added, it will actually automatically get checked full access or read only or whatever you actually selected. So let's take a look at that in protocol real quick. All right, gotta find my screen. Apologize for all the flipping around. All right, so let's get into protocols. So let's talk about the admin correction. So let me find a protocol that is equal to approved. So let's say on this, maybe I shouldn't use WITS demo. Let's use this protocol. So this was approved. And let's say there was, expiration date. Man, we made a typo. That should have been the 29th. Now, protocol admins will have the approval update button on approved protocols. If you click on that, you can actually change these values. So maybe it should have been the 29th. Maybe there was also, you can also change the continuing review date or even the approval date. Maybe it, for whatever reason, you may need to change that and add or adjust to the approval comments. Once you click approve, this will update the information. It will also update and generate new correspondence if you have that enabled. And it will also be recorded in the activity log of the protocol. So that's nice for tracking. So I do that, it goes on, and then we have that it updates accordingly. So, oh, why did it not? Oh, there it went. Sorry, there must have been a lag. So that's that. And then templates. So let's look at the templates real quick. Oops. So in the pending protocol template, I'm going to take a look. Let me get in. Oh, I'm going to create a new version. And so now if I go into roles, you can see that you can configure what access they would have by default when they're added. So that's really nice. Any questions on that? Okay, I'm a little conscious of time, so I want to keep going. All right, COI. So COI is a very, very powerful tool. If you have projects enabled within COI, meaning it links back to our sponsor programs modules, you can put a number of criteria that it will pull or push projects for individuals based on sponsor, based on sponsor hierarchy, based on award type, based on sponsor type. So there's a lot of really detailed configuration available to push projects for disclosures and require users to disclose. But something we recently added was the linked projects gadget within this. So what that also allows you to do is, so if you have projects enabled and you also have linked projects, if it pushes a project, so this pushed it required an award to be disclosed upon, it will show down below any projects linked to that project. So this was an award 482. This is the IP associated with that award. So it also allows you to click into that linked project. If this also had a proposal associated with it, the IP, it would also show that. So it's another tool to kind of have links to be able to kind of see the history of that project from proposal to IP to award. The other great tool that we've recently added was the notification log. So in COI, let me just get in there. In the configuration, as a COI admin, under customized notifications, this is where you can configure and enable notifications as needed. But we also have this view notification log. This allows you to see all the emails that have been sent in the COI system. So when a person says, I didn't get this email, I wasn't alerted, you can kind of go back through your log, find the email and look at it and view it if needed. So it's a nice kind of troubleshooting tool. All right. I'm gonna just keep, I know there's questions in there, but I want to just get through the last slide or two and then we'll go back through questions. Also with COI in general, we have a lot of training management available. So this is all handled in the sponsor program side using our person training tables. So you can actually manage user training manually. So if you have a number of training locally at an institution, you can enter those trainings for an individual, say if they pass, what their score, you know, all that fun stuff. You can do it manually, but you can also integrate it with CITI training. So we can help you set up that integration so it actually would populate automatically on a nightly feed to your person training tables. So you can pull that information as needed. And then what's nice is it will actually, once you can make some configurations on the compliance side, you can have it display in the proposal under the person training details tab of the individual in the key personnel tab. And then using the training gadget in COI or protocols, it will also display in your template. So it's a really nice tool to be able to kind of track training and have a visual indicator in those records. So that's a really nice tool. All right, I know there was some COI questions. So let me just make sure, yeah. One more slide, guys. System gems. So these are really great tools kind of at a system high level function that can kind of help you troubleshoot or kind of manage information locally. So the first is user impersonation. So we have the ability to turn on user impersonation in your lower non-prod environment, so stage and sandbox, so that Kuali users with the admin role in core will be able to have an impersonate button for a given individual. This is really handy if you're trying to troubleshoot issues locally for your users, and it can really help you understand what they're seeing or maybe figure out what's going on for a specific user. And then last but not least is the APIs that we have. So this is more of the tech heavy gem, but this link here, I recently posted a kind of an API overview article that kind of goes through what APIs are, how to use them, some examples where our API documentation lives, but it really allows institutions to have options to get or actually put and post information or data in the system. So it gives you abilities to kind of get data out of your database and also put and update data in your database. It can also be used for integrations locally, and you would need to work with your IT staff locally to kind of initiate those. All right. I think we had some questions on COI. Okay, can you filter projects to COI if we are using Research Lite? Research Lite seems to send all projects, so I'd like to filter if it's available. You should be, that might be a question for Victor, Noah. So if you have that question, you can submit it via.
I can also speak to that here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in terms of filtering projects, that's a Research Lite code question. That's not really part of the system overall. So you would need to build that filtering into Research Lite because you'd be maintaining that locally.
Yeah, we did that change in Research Lite, but I was excited to see that there's filtering, but you know, I guess it's not for us yet.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like CSU did modify locally to send only awards, so you may want to talk to Chris, Denny.
Yeah. Yeah, and once those projects are in the system, you can use the filters. So Research Lite is just sending data to the COI system. You can still use that filters view once the data is pushed over.
And I think we had another question about the COI notification log, if there's filters. Unfortunately, there aren't yet any filters. You kind of have to kind of tab through the pages to kind of find dates, but there isn't currently any search on that. But I think that would be a good improvement long term. Any other questions? Well, I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So I don't know, you guys be the judge if this is as powerful. I mean, as you start using these and wield these powerful gems, you may whisper under your breath, I am Iron Man. I don't know. I do sometimes because I'm a geek. But I hope these have been helpful. I hope you know, you've learned something, at least one thing you've come away with. If there are any questions related to any of these things I've brought up, please reach out. And I really appreciate you guys all coming out. I'll stick around for any other additional questions you may have. I really just want to thank you guys for listening to me for the last hour. Oh, Chris wants the link to the API article. Yes, let me get that for you. Any questions while I do that? There you go, Chris. Oh, did I send it to, sorry, that was Chris Karsten. Sorry, I'll send it to the entire, somehow I'm sending only to you, Chris, and you're probably wondering why. There we go. Thank you, Susan. I like to put a lot of movie references and geeky references in my presentation. Anyone else have questions? We got a couple minutes before the next session.
Jess, would you mind showing me that NIH eCommons connection again, where you can actually take a look at the proposal?
Sure, for sure.
I don't know if you've got I shot that out and somebody said, can you share how to do that? And I was like, no, I just know it's there.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a really nice, nice tool. Saves you a lot of heartache because you know that you can address the NIH specific validations beforehand. So the configuration we can help you with behind the scenes, that's pretty easy to get all set up as long as you have an NIH eCommons account, which probably everyone does. And so within the proposal, it'll automatically see it's an NIH, that there's a system to system opportunity that is NIH attached. So then it'll go out and retrieve those validations if there are any. And this is after we've cleared all the normal errors or grants.gov validations to be able to print and validate the forms. Then it will go out and retrieve, because if the form's not all the information is filled out for the form, it won't go out yet to NIH. But once it is, then it'll say, oh, hey, you need to add this research plan. You need to be, aware of these other validation warnings possibly, but it won't block. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, no, I was referring to, you said that there was a way to go in through Kuali and actually see the proposal before you actually hit submit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So that is the NIH application. So if the NIH validation service is on and running in your environment, this button will become available on NIH applications. And you can, and this would only be available pre-submission. Once post-submission, I believe it's actually available pre and post, but it kind of locks it down after post-submission. But once you click on that, then it will download, go out to Commons, retrieve it as it would be kind of compiled there. And then you can open it and view it and kind of preview it.
Okay, and where is that button again? I'm sorry, I can't, it's really tiny on my screen.
Oh, is it tiny? I hope my screen wasn't tiny this whole time, but if it was, oh well. It's at the very bottom right, NIH application.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess I'll let you all go. Thanks again. Please rate the session in the Socio app, and I'll probably see you sometime later today, but enjoy the rest of your Kuali days. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jessica.